Definitely want to hear about those plans in affordable housing. And I love that earlier comment. You get a 3% raise, but your rent goes up 9%. What are we doing here, right? Or 6%. We're right back on track, right, team? Good? We're right on track? Perfect, perfect. We ready? Yes, fantastic. Please give a warm welcome to our next candidate, Michael Blake. Michael. Thanks for joining us, brother. Thanks for coming. Always. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. How are you, Michael?
I mean, I'm feeling good, but y'all put me up right when the Knicks are starting. I don't know if you like me or not. I mean, this is some serious pressure right now.
See if you can keep the focus on it.
Okay. I'm going to see how y'all going to pay attention to me right now, okay?
So we're going to spend about 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. And so we wanted to open up with a class size question. You're probably familiar that there's given the state mandate on class size, how would you as mayor ensure that our schools have the funding, staffing, and or the facilities that they need to comply with the law while at the same time not cutting any other programs, art, music, or after school to fund the law?
Absolutely. Well, first, it's good to see you again, and good to see everybody again. Good evening, everyone. You clap on that. I like that, whoever was clapping right there. Look, I come to you as somebody that you have worked with over the years when I was in the Assembly for 6 years. And before that, when I was with President Obama for 7 years in the White House, good Lord, we miss a real president right now. Look, to the question, I would say first look at my track record. When we fought to finally address CFE, what was happening there, but then go a step further, my brother's keeper. We're still the only state in the country to have that, and that was my main bill, and I did that with you. And I was very clear that you can't continue to say to the students to realize their dreams when class sizes are large, but that means we have to help the principals and the APs and all that are part of the process there. And so instead of us spending $1.4 billion on NYPD overtime, maybe we should spend it on schools and kids and principals, right? And so there is no strong reason why in a $114 billion budget we can't find the funds to fight for you. And we have to ensure that. And then lastly, to the question, we can't keep telling you that we can't figure out what's going on in class sizes, but then we're stuffing in other charters and other to your schools and not giving you the spaces. That's not fair. It's not right. And so it's about funding, and it's about priorities, and about consistency. And that's what I would do if you give me the chance to be your mayor.
Thank you for that, Michael. And in fact, I love that you mentioned our assistant principals. Often they refer to us as the principal unit, but we're more than just principals. We have assistant principals, early childhood directors, educational administrators, supervisors of. So let's give them a round of applause for recognizing them as long. And we all work together to lead the entire system together. Historically, as you know, New York City municipal workers have earned less salary than the private sector. As a mayor, how would you continue to ensure that current and future school leaders maintain high-quality, premium-free health care? And would you commit to preserving retiree choice to stay in traditional Medicare without any penalty?
Well, absolutely. And you have some candidates in the race who can't say that. So I think you should be mindful of who's actually been working on this and who isn't. I come from a union household, and I'd be damned if someone were to tell my family, you work all these years and all of a sudden I'm going to change what's happening for your benefits afterwards. That doesn't make any sense to me at all, right? And so I do think you got some folks, some who were on stage recently, who are now asking for your vote, but they don't want to protect your benefits, right? So I'm just going to leave that there. You can decide what I meant by that. So to that degree, I'm Jamaican. That's how I talk. I just get straight to it. That's how we get after it right there, right?
You can be straight, brother. You can be straight.
I think there's some people that are just bullshitting y'all. I think there's folks coming on this stage asking for your endorsement, but they're trying to take your benefits away.
Thank you.
Right? So just like this. So at the end of the day, we shouldn't do that. Now, and to the deeper question here, right? It is about, again, it's about priorities and consistency, right? If you had a chance to fix this for years and you didn't, they shouldn't be on stage then asking for your vote to be mayor. And one of the reasons why I'm running is that I kept watching people say things and they couldn't do them. And it doesn't make sense. You can't really rationalize why you have to cut someone's benefits, health care, protection. They're not giving you a strong answer. They're just saying, well, somehow it will work out that will save more money. Why is it that principals and APs and educators are always the ones who have to deal with cuts? They don't do that for anyone else. Why should it have to happen to you?
Amen, brother. Thank you. Speaking of that, having been in the state, you're familiar with Tier 6.
Oh, I've heard of that occasionally.
Yes. Would you be committed to working with labor unions here in New York City, go to Albany and change Tier 6?
Absolutely. Because we've created a scenario and a dynamic. Use a flash when you take a picture. I'm a dark brother. Help me out right now, all right? Just make sure we're all aligned right now. They're like, what's his name again? Michael Blake, okay, you know, right? Absolutely, we have to, right? There is too often a dynamic that's happening in the country and in New York where we only want to say that Donald Trump is attacking unions. No, you got some Democrats that are doing it. And you have Democrats who, in Albany, were wrong, in City Hall, were wrong, don't want to admit it, but again, now want to say, well, let's fix it. Doesn't really make much sense. And that's not what we can tolerate in this environment. And I'll say this, I'm the only person in this race who can tell you that I have White House, State House, and local experience. I'm the only person in this race who's actually defeated Donald Trump when I was vice chair of the DNC. You want someone who actually can win these battles. You don't need someone who's just giving you great lines and hoping they can be successful.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I'm going to message you a little bit. See, again, because I'm Jamaican, whenever I hear someone tapping, it's like, potty done, potty done. So I'm not really sure, like, what is going on.
A little
bit. Right? You know, but I know you talk about the clock right here. Okay, I got you.
Not time to go home.
Potty done. I was like, what are we doing right now? I was like, I got more time on the clock. Like, what are we doing out here?
I was in Jamaica, Queens like that with
You
blasting
understand?
music,
You understand? Like, what are we doing right now? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay.
This is an individual question for you, Mike.
Please.
And we've done that with every candidate.
Please.
In other countries, the wind and energy sector has preserved and expanded union jobs by creating strong partnerships with the education department, labor, and building industries. As New York City advances its clean energy goals, how would you as mayor ensure that the emerging industries like wind and solar power create opportunities for students to have pathways into those careers, CTE, and fully integrate that into the next generation of students?
There's more water than land. And so when we start from a dynamic of how do you actually show people the next generation, you have to connect them to industries that are continual. You know, it's about that continual reminder that more emissions don't come from vehicles, they come from buildings, right? And so it's about transforming that dynamic. We don't even have to go outside the country. We can start by what's going on. If you go up to Martha's Vineyard, they've put up the wind turbines intentionally because they have so much power that's happening from that. When I was policy director of Green for All, we showed people what you can do in terms of putting up solar panels on schools and mobilizing in that way. I have said again, if you give me the chance to be your mayor, there are different things we should do. We should renovate how playgrounds are built in our city so that you can take the solar power and create power energy for nature developments, right? You can do this, and we know it's possible because we're seeing this in other places. And the reason why it's not happening here is lack of leadership. It's not that it's impossible. It's that people are making decisions that other things are more important. And I remind people often, and you all know this best, we kept talking during COVID about remote learning. Well, it's hard to have remote learning if you got 7 people living in the house and they don't have a tablet and they don't have Wi-Fi and no one is actually getting continual help in buildings that weren't renovated in the first place. And so, you know, I come to you as someone, I come to you as someone, Savage Inequalities, Children in American Schools, Jonathan Kozel. That was my elementary school. I was at PS 79. James Carter was my principal, right? So I was that kid that walked up the block on Creston and Burnside. Like, that was not theoretical. I understand that. And to this degree, we can't continue to say to kids, I want for you to have a better chance for your future, but I'm not creating opportunities for jobs of the future. And what we need to stop doing is have an education system being pushed upon you where you're asked to make kids test takers rather than learners. And so that is how you transform what's going on.
Test takers and not learners. Yeah. It resonates with me as a father of 4, 2 girls and 2 boys, and my wife's a teacher, right? We've never prioritized tests.
Ever.
My kids do great in school, by the way, but we don't prioritize it. We want them to be good human beings and be great learners and be curious about learning. So we appreciate that.
You have to transform it. Look, my mother-in-law is a retired teacher. We have a 16-year-old who plays volleyball, a 13-year-old who plays basketball itself, and you're constantly thinking about these things. And it's one of the many reasons why I've said, I actually think, and I know we have the best education plan in the race. If you go to our website, you'll see that, blakefriendnyc.com. But one thing we highlighted is every kid should have civics, financial literacy, and mental health before they graduate. Like, you got to create global citizenry. Like, that's how you change the game in this way.
Michael, you mentioned remote learning a little while ago, and we have a remote provision in our contract for our non-school-based folks who work in offices up to 2 days a week, for school-based leaders once a month pretty much. And it's been game-changing for our members. What are your views on remote work for city employees, and would you commit as mayor to making that pilot permanent?
It needs to be, because, you know, it doesn't really make sense. See, now you're messing with the clock again over here. Right. It doesn't really make sense that we would tell people that we found a way to make it for 2 years, 2.5 years, but you're not going to learn from the best practices of that.
Correct.
That doesn't make any logical sense.
Correct.
And I also think we got to be more intentional about how we lead, right? Like, I run 2 companies myself. Again, I was an assembly member as a staffer. Everything is not linear in terms of a 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. or a 9 to a 5. It doesn't really make sense in that way. This is the reason why I say you have to have universal child care, and it's not just about after school 3 to 6. It's about expanding out for family and community engagement on the weekends as well, so that schools are community centers, but then you're supported around this. But you're only able to do these things if you have remote work a part of it, right? Because, again, principals, APs, and others, you do remote work every day when you go home. Right?
They're doing it already.
Like you're already doing it, right?
They're doing it already.
So it doesn't make sense to me that we'd be like, no, let's not have remote work. Like, okay, well, you clearly never been around an educator, right? So, and I think, again, you know, it's like, just say, like, oh, just figure out, you're going to grade these papers, you're going to, that makes sense, stop, right? So, like, to this degree.
This is why I have a lot of Jamaican friends, by the way.
I'm just saying, I mean, me used to tree jobs, man. Right? But it's to that point where we're saying to the students in your schools, and you understand this, A. Philip Randolph and others, and, you know, the track record, and, you know, Fordham and everything, like, hey, you all are excellent at figuring out technology on a phone or a tablet, but I don't want a principal or an AP or an administrator to do the same. That doesn't make logical sense.
Yep.
Right? And so I just think that we have to reimagine what education is, and we can do that.
Fantastic. Michael, we have always believed that the best candidate to lead our system should be someone who's led a school in New York City. What would you prioritize in selecting a chancellor? And would you commit to appointing a chancellor who has experience leading a school in New York City?
Oh, 1,000%. And again, I go back to the dynamic of, I wouldn't want someone to be my doctor who never went to medical school. I wouldn't want someone to, like, fix my car, who's not been a mechanic. I mean, it's just kind of these things that, like, that seem pretty linear, right? You know, pretty linear.
Just makes sense.
Just basic sense. Like, you know, 1 million people in the school system, but you know what, just wing it, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense to me, right? And in this environment that we're in, not only do you have to have education experience, which would be mandatory for what I would do, but again, I go back to assess my track record. There is nobody in this race who has done more in education than I have. Full stop. From what I did it with President Obama with My Brother's Keeper, I brought the My Brother's Keeper Alliance to the Bronx. Many of y'all were with me when we did it at Lehman College, right? We created it in the state assembly. We've consistently done this. And so this is not me just randomly talking about it. This is who I am. And in this moment that we're in, where there is an anti-blackness that is happening in this country from DC, and an anti-Latino rhetoric, and Islamophobia, and anti-Semitic, on all this garbage that's happening against us, you need someone who understands a pedagogy to be intentional on how you lead. Because you're going to have schools where people are going to be afraid to actually talk about diversity because they're afraid their funding is going to get cut off. And then you're assessing what is best for us as a city, because I'm wondering if someone's going to roll in simultaneously. ICE has no business at a school or a place of worship or a community center. So you got to have someone who has that education experience to lead in this moment. And I also think you need someone who is managed. And I have managed operations at all levels, and I think it's essential to have someone thinking that same way.
Thank you for that, Michael. That was very powerful. In the last 45 seconds we have, anything else you'd like to share with our school leaders and administrators about you, your platform, and your ideas as mayor?
Pick someone who's actually ready to lead, not just because you've seen his name. And to that degree, I'm prepared to lead the city. I have led at every opportunity, local, state, and national. Again, I would encourage you to go onto our site, blakefornyc.com. You will see I have the most detailed education plan of anyone in this race. And you will see how, oh, I didn't see what's going on, Mark, right? And you could see we've been around each other for years, right? I was looking, I don't see Lou in here, or Lou Torres, or Felina Backer, and others who've been around me over the years, you know. Right?
Louis had a death in the family. Texted me this morning. His mother-in-law passed away. Luis Torres, many of you know who
From
he is.
CS55.
He's the #1 principal on social media.
Yeah, that man is on social media all the time.
He's a brother and a friend, but,
1000%.
he's a member of our executive board and will be one of those folks that would be taking a vote, whether, you know.
I will make it a point to give him a call. So that just shows I'm not new to y'all. And you have been with me over the years. And I'll end with this. We have to ask ourselves, who do you want to lead our city in this environment? And I know that we're prepared to do that if you give me the chance. I want to be ranked first, of course, no question about that. But realize right now, have someone who is ready to lead right now, and that person is Michael Blake.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your time, brother. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
I'll text you.
You got it. I will too. Oh, this way, Mike.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, this way. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.